not fretting about every little detail of it, and being able to just enjoy the display a bit more.
Accept it as it is, rather than trying to control it.
Material that's going in that looks even more authentic.
Hi everyone, welcome to this new video, vlog style, just recording on my phone, so the audio won't be perfect. If you're wondering why that hasn't got a light on, that's going to be another video completely, so I don't want to spoil the surprise. Everyone's seen that tank behind Tai by now, probably do another update on that soon. But this video is about this Awase Scapoline 60, and it's going to be a habitat for Ember tetras.
Yeah, that's correct.
Amandai.
That's correct, from the Rio Araguaia Basin in Brazil. And yeah, we were talking about doing a sort of aquascape biotope.
Yeah.
And we thought, what could we do? And I said, what about Ember tetras?
Yeah.
And
here we are.
You set this up, which I really like.
Thanks, mate. I got really bored over Christmas, so so it was a kind of just a generic nature aquarium, which I kept struggling with algae. There's videos on that, and I thought, why not just start afresh? I quite fancy a biotope style, inspired by aquatic habitats, aquariums, inspired by nature.
That's the book we're working on, yeah.
Due to be released in now.
So the latest I've had from the publisher is August this year.
August this year.
I was hoping May, but they've said due to development.
Due to the
it's
500,000 words that I read.
It's massive, and all I can say is that the longer it takes, the better the book will be.
Yeah, it's going to be worth the wait.
Just really patient.
Yeah. I actually pre-ordered it when it was 15 quid.
Okay, so you get it because we don't know how much it'll be final once they've done the production costs.
But there will be signed copies available, so keep an eye out for that. Available all over the world.
Yes.
So if you've already pre-ordered from Amazon, you might want to also get a signed copy.
Who knows?
So Awase Scapoline 60, low iron glass, rimless of course. We've actually got quite a fancy light on here. This is a Life Aqua Prime, which is on loan to me from Dave from Aquarium Gardens. Awase Biomaster 350. I've actually fitted 12mm glassware on there because it's more discreet. It doesn't need to clean. The substrate is actually just I think it's a Cimarron.
One of the sands.
One of the Rio sands, Cimarron. I do actually have some other grades of this to add more details later potentially. Planted with Halanthus Bolivianum quadricostatus, formerly known as Echinodorus quadricostatus. This is the 1-2 grow. This is 4 or 5 pots. And it was only planted a week or so ago, and it's showing growth already. And this is a low-tech setup, so no CO2 injection, in plain sand, and it's growing really well. I am adding liquid fertiliser every day to it though, and it has got a decent light, of course. The wood is a combination of wood that I've just found in my garden, and also some of this other Rio product. I can't remember what it's called.
So they're the roots. They're actually grapevine vines,
right?
But they give this really nice root sort of
like a complex thing.
Yeah.
So there's 3 or 4 pieces of different types of driftwood all combined together to make this kind of informal triangular style, and then almost randomly added some of these roots, and there's some bits of twigs and stuff. Could add some leaf litter as well in the longer term. There's a very, very slight tannin tinge to it, but I do actually have saved
secret can of black water.
Yeah, Emma got really cross with me because we had a load of people over, and this was like here. She's like, what the hell is that saucepan doing on the floor? But this is it, look at that. Give that a snifter.
Yeah.
So we can add some of that later.
Pure life.
To give an extra tannin tinge. And we do have a surprise addition right at the end to really bring the whole thing to life. So let us know in the comments if you know what that could be. So today's plan is just going to enhance the overall layout. We've got a few more plant species to add. Can you remember what they are, Tai?
Heteranthera zostrifolia, stargrass, which is a plant I've seen growing in the wild in South America quite a bit. And we've got some Limnobium levigatum, the frogbit, which I've also seen growing in the wild. And we've got Myriophyllum sp. Guyana, which I can't grow at all, but you and Dave seem very good at growing. So
there we go.
And then we've got Sagittarius subulata, which I've also encountered a form of, I think, in the wild. So the idea is to create quite a nice mix of textures, some floating plants to offer cover for the fish.
Sorry, Betty. Betty, it's okay, good girl, be quiet.
The Heteranthera is to add some height and just a bit of difference to the other plants.
Yeah, a bit of height, yeah, a bit of more texture. The texture actually I think is going to look complementary to the Quadrico starters.
It'll be interesting to see how the Myriophyllum mescigana works in a non-CO2, relatively low energy tank.
Got an idea. Shout out to our
friend
Dave. I have got the Strideway C2 reg behind High right now with 2 manifolds on, one for the Highline 400, one for the Escape Line 60, and a third one for this tank. So potentially we could run 3 tanks off one CO2 injection kit. At the moment it's non-CO2, and I'll keep it non-CO2, but if we do struggle, I can easily add CO2.
I've got a Strideway kit that they very kindly provided me with the 3 manifolds, and it's amazing.
It's flawless, isn't it?
And the nice thing is you can buy as many manifolds as you need and keep adding them on.
Yeah.
So I'm running several have got 3 tanks, several have got 2 tanks, and it does make life a lot easier.
It does.
We wanted to create a nice palette of greens because the fish that we're going to put in the Ember tetras are wonderful reddish orange, and it will create a really nice warm vibe to the display.
Yeah.
And also some cover for the fish, so they should look even more coloured up.
Yeah. As I mentioned, it is plain sand at the moment. I do have some Tropica nutrition capsules which I may add, that will help.
I'll tell you what, like Heteranthera zostrifolia, I've observed that growing in the wild in Brazil in plain sand, and the only nutrients it was getting was from decaying leaf litter that's breaking down into the substrate.
Oh wow.
And it was covered in detritus, so that it was being overgrown by the plants.
Yeah.
I sent you that photo of the Sagittaria, covered in detritus in a shallow pool, growing really well. The idea is not to produce a sort of perfect aquascape.
No.
The idea is to simulate plants growing as they might in the wild. And they might look a little leggy, they might look a bit tired, they might not be quite as dense, but there'll be a really natural vibe to it.
Yeah. What do you think about adding CO2 injection to a kind of biotope style tank? Do you think it is a bit contrary?
No, because biotope is representing a habitat, and habitats, funnily enough, have CO2 in them.
Where do they get the CO2 from?
Oxygen exchange through the surface.
But it'd be lower than the 30 parts or 20 parts, say, would it?
Depends on the surface area. If you've got a river, you've got to imagine how much gaseous exchange is going on in square meters of surface area versus plants. And also, these habitats aren't static. So all CO2 that's entering a waterway upriver from a bunch of plants is making its way down to those plants.
Interesting.
All the nutrients from decaying material. So every time I've seen aquatic plants growing in the wild, if you put your hand into the substrate, very rarely is it a muddy, nutrient-rich base. It's sand with some decaying material in. And that material is providing nutrients, but so many of the nutrients are being brought down river.
Including CO2?
Well, including CO2.
Because the methodology in a typical kind of low-tech, kind of El Naturel, Diana Welstad style, dirted tank, whatever word you want to use to label it, relies on the decomposing matter in the substrate for CO2 as well.
Which is natural. Yeah,
so interesting. So I was always feeling a bit hypocritical by adding CO2 injection to a biotope style.
A natural environment would have CO2 in it.
Yeah, okay.
One thing I was thinking about, you talked about the Welstad method. Last year when I went to Brazil with my friend Juliana, and we explored a bunch of habitats in the northeast. We went into this lake. It was quite green, deep lake. And she was like, okay, dive down with me. So we dove down about 3 meters.
Yeah.
And there's this, the lake bed was just covered in this green film of like detritus and algae. Just covered. It was a huge lake.
Yeah.
And as we were down there, she took her hand and she wafted it away. And underneath it was a perfect carpet of Helanthrium tenellum.
Oh wow.
And the whole lake, I'll see if I can find you a clip.
Yeah, please do.
The whole lake was covered in Helanthrium tenellum.
Yeah.
That was beneath a bed of algae and detritus that was really deep, so the light was really low, but it was growing. And it's one of those plants that it'll grow, but in really adverse conditions.
Yeah.
So when people are sort of saying, oh, well, the plants, unless they get all the CO2 and unless they get all the right, you know what, they're really adaptable.
Yeah.
Many of the species in the trade will grow.
Yeah.
You've just got to try.
Yeah, and give them patience as well.
And be patient.
I think this is an interesting topic because I was speaking to a reef guy yesterday. Get a new client, he's going to go high-end freshwater aquascape. And he was talking about, oh yeah, I'll test for this and I'll test for that. Because he's used to reef. And you think about the body of water of the ocean, it's so stable, and those corals are so used to that very thin threshold of parameters that you do need to hit that. But freshwater plants, they're really adaptable, like you say, because if you think about rivers, streams, even lakes, those parameters are adjusting almost on a daily level. In fact, they are on a daily level. pH swings because of photosynthesis, CO2, oxygen exchange. So don't be obsessed about hitting specific values. Hello, mate.
The other thing to remember in the wild is there are very few habitats where there are plants all year round in perfect condition or in very good condition. The seasonal changes, you might even look at a European river in the summer, it's full of the big nufar lilies. You might notice the eelgrass, and look at it in the winter, it's gone. The rhizomes are in the mud.
And it waits.
Same in tropical habitats. Maybe you get the flood period comes, there's loads of water, it's murky, strong currents, almost all the plants are ripped out. But the seeds are dispersed. Come next season, things like Kabomba, Mayaka, even Heteranthera will suddenly flourish from nowhere. The difficulty with the tank, of course, is you're keeping it static. And
interesting.
That has advantages and disadvantages.
So you're not experiencing those seasons necessarily in an aquarium. Although the real kind of nerds do try to replicate that, don't they?
You can do that with like your Aponogetans and your lilies.
Give them the cold period.
You can take the bulb out, put it in damp tissue and cotton wool in a Tupperware box, and then put it in an airing cupboard for 6 months. And it simulates the dry season. And it gives it time to sort of, not quite regenerate, but preserve nutrients.
Almost like hibernation.
And then you put it in the tank again and it bursts forth.
And does that explain why sometimes like Nymphia species will have bursts of growth now and again, and that's like mimicking the seasons?
And you notice that they put out little daughter plants from the bulb, which will then detach, because they've had their sort of nutrient burst from the bulb, and now they've got to make their own way. But the bulb eventually will use up its nutrients.
That's really interesting, mate. Do you fancy doing the planting? And then I'll just like use the phone to sort of get close-ups and stuff. So we'll take you through preparing the plants. I'm excited, mate. We've not done this for ages.
No, we haven't. And we're lucky because we've got our fish lined up. So James Sampson from Ben Head Aquatics, Woodbridge has very kindly offered to sponsor us a group of Ember tetras, which he's had in captivity for a while and been feeding up and looking after.
Nice. So nice and colourful and chunky.
And you've got a mature filter, so we'll be introducing those hopefully next week.
The orange is going to look brilliant.
They're going to look really nice.
And the orange of the soil, the sand even. Okay, right, well let's prepare the plants and get them in. Exciting. Thanks, mate. First, we're going to prepare the Heteranthera zostifolia. All these are Tropica 1-2 grow, guaranteed to be free from algae, pests, pest snails, pesticides, and actually get a lot more quantity versus a regular pot. This is actually starting to look a bit kind of sorry for itself. It's been in storage for quite a long time. However, we only literally need a few stems to get going. It's such a fast grower, such a weed. We don't actually need the whole pot to get an effect very relatively quickly. So first thing, peel off the lid, tip away your nutrient-rich liquid. This has got growth hormones and all sorts of nutrients in there to help keep the plant growing in its kind of lovely little home in the Tropica labs. And then just take out the whole plant as one solid lump like so, and then we can delicately remove the individual stems. And then I've got some individual containers here with aquarium water, which aquarium water from the aquarium it's going into, so we know those plants are going to acclimatise straight away. Now, one of the main advantages of the 1-2 grows is that they are readily adapted to grow in liquid, in water. So unlike hydroponically grown plants, plants that are grown in greenhouses out of water, which take some time and energy to adapt, this will begin growing right away. We'll see growth probably within 48 hours or so. Next, we're going to go to the Sagittarius subulata. Exactly the same process, but as you can see, this is a lot healthier. Pour away the liquid again, and then we've got our big mass here. loads of individual plants there, probably over 100 individual plants if we wanted to separate those individually. So we'll just kind of divide those up into chunks of an inch or so, probably 5 or 6 individual plants per portion. Because this is a biotope style or natural habitat style, we're not after the perfectly healthy plant. It doesn't matter if it's a little bit kind of dried or yellowing leaf. You know, in nature, as Tai will attest to, the plants don't necessarily look, you know, like the perfect aquarium plant, so we don't need to worry so much about the aesthetics. So again, pour away your nutrient-rich stuff, and then same process with the Myriophyllum Guyana. Do the same thing, separate that into your individual portions, probably 10 or so stems here per portion, so at least 100 or so stems altogether. You know, when you think about, you know, you're paying £6 or so, which is what, $8 to $10, depending on where you're getting them from, per stem. We're talking, you know, cents or pence per stem. You know, when I started the hobby, Tai, I don't know about you, but you pay at least £1 per stem. You know, so actually these represent such great value for money, as well as being, you know, free from algae and pests, etc. Final plant, this is the Limnobium laevigatum. This is Amazon frogbit. The leaves will probably get a lot bigger. The roots dangle right down, potentially to the substrate, which can look really cool, and the fish will love swimming along those roots. Great for nutrient export because it grows so quickly. It's got all the access to CO2 in the air, obviously more access to the light because it's nearer the light source. So it's a really, really great plant for the beginning of an aquascape where algae is quite prominent because it's such a great nutrient export. Great shade as well, of course, but we do need to be mindful of thinning it out occasionally so we don't create too much shade, so we have some the plants have access to the light, of course. So again, we can just rinse away the nutrient-rich stuff and then just pop our plants in there. Again, probably 100 or so individual plants in here. It is also used as an indicator plant. So what that means is because it's so fast growing, it will be one of the first species to show signs of nutrient deficiency, and we actually can see some there. That's mainly because it hasn't had access to light because it's been kind of growing on top of each other. So we can just discard that. I mean, there's so many plants in there already. When you do discard of the plants, do so responsibly. Don't let them into any natural waterways. They can become invasive, especially floating plants. So do be mindful of how you throw away any excess or unwanted plants. There we have our plants prepared in individual containers with our aquarium water all ready to plant. We'll throw this away. This is going to go in general disposal, so no chance of that getting into natural waterways. You ready to plant, Tai? Thanks, mate. Tai is going to plant starting with the Sagittaria.
Sagittarius subulata, yeah, which is really nice. It can stay quite low, but I think it may go right up to the surface in this tank.
Will that be depending on the light?
Yeah, and also nutrient level, and I think in the sand substrate like this, possibly it may grow taller.
Okay.
I just realised that the sand is very shallow at the back.
Yeah, do you think, is it got enough sand to grip?
I can't plant it.
Okay, we need to put more sand in.
Yeah.
Okay, that's good learning. So we have luckily some more substrate. We'll put some more sand in the back. Here we have a bag. This is a 2 kilogram bag of the Cimarron or Cimarron. Cimarron sand. And as you can see, it really does need washing. You know, that is absolutely filthy. So if we put that in the tank straight away, it's really just going to cloud the water and be a disaster. Okie dokie. So we've got the bowl of washed Cimarron sands, and then we've got the jug. Put it in nice and gently all along the back, is that right?
Yeah.
Is Sagittaria going to spread all across the back?
Yeah, particularly the rear,
rear right?
2/3, yeah, towards the right.
So it will cloud the water probably a little bit. So some of the wood is slightly buoyant, which is okay. I mean, it's going to sink eventually. I've got the back alleyway around there, Tai, you know, on the side of the house, and I've just got this sort of random hardscape collection I built up over the years. I'm actually going to sprinkle a little bit across the foreground because it just looks really natural.
Yeah.
The latest video I did with Lawrence, I showed you a little bit of it earlier, really did a lot of detail work on that with fine gravels and stones and stuff.
I think A.D. Myers is the king of detailing.
Yeah.
I learned so much from looking at his stuff, and
Yeah.
it's nice when you implement it in your own aquascapes.
Yeah, he's a good scaper, really.
And that tank that you did looked really nice. Makes, the devil is in the details, as they say, and detail is everything.
Yeah, it's like I say, like one little detail on its own you don't really notice, but when you add them all together, it can really transform a good scape into a great scape, I think.
It's also because you see it every day, so if it's lacking in detail, you'll notice that very quickly.
That's true. Yeah, I never thought about it like that. Complexity.
Yeah, complexity keeps it diverse and interesting to the eye.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true. I've read something recently about humans get depressed if they live in a city where all the architecture is really monotonous. And I guess, conversely, that's why being amongst nature is great, because it's so complex and you have these natural geometric shapes and things.
It's stimulated. Round 2 of planting.
Planting into some deeper sand now.
Yeah, I'm getting several plantlets together. Just, putting the roots kind of side by side.
Yeah.
I don't want to be planting them individually because I don't have 9 hours.
No.
And then pinching them together, finding a spot, just put them in like that.
Plenty of depth now.
Be interesting to see how it does in this sand substrate.
Yeah. I have got root capsules if needed.
I
We'll
would
see how
just-
it goes without
I
it.
would just do it because it's even more natural if you just add your liquid ferts, and then the roots will, as they establish in the sand, will start pulling nutrients from the water column into the substrate, and it'll keep it less dense, a bit
More natural.
Yeah, a bit sparser, and more manageable growth as well. You don't want to be overwhelmed. I'm just going to put 1 or 2 in that shallow bit. It's there.
Yeah, there's only a few stones with that.
Yeah,
so,
we'll just stick a few bits in here and there.
in the middle? Or towards the
Around
back?
the wood, maybe around the wood.
Will it get enough light?
It'll find a way. That's right there. It's almost like a sort of a bit of detailing, really. Just
Yeah.
putting a few little bits.
It'll be interesting to see how quick it grows, isn't it? If people have only just seen you, Tai, how can they find you online?
They can find YouTube Biotopia, or on Instagram Biotopia Tai.
Mm-hmm.
And try and post things about aquascapes and wild habitats as well.
Yeah. And have you got any big plans for this year, apart from the book release?
So I may be going to the States and Canada to give talks and do book signings.
That's cool.
To Chicago, St. Louis, and possibly elsewhere.
Nice.
So we'll see.
So if you live in the US or Canada and you're in the area, people can keep an eye on your social media and
the more the merrier. We'll
see you in person, maybe.
That should be in October, possibly, once the book is out.
Okay.
And we can...
You're planting the Mayaka now?
Yes.
Not the Mayaka, sorry, the Mirror
film. And we'll see how this does. And you often see this in aquascapes, like really nice, bushy, dense, shrub-like.
Mm-hmm.
And we'll see what it does in here. It may not do that.
So yeah, this is one of the most demanding plants that we've got in here, so it'll be interesting to see if it does well. And like I say, we have got the option of adding CO2. It's a good thing about this proper nature style aquarium, because you don't have to aim for perfect plant health.
No.
So yeah, it's a lot more kind of forgiving, I guess.
Something about not fretting about every little detail of it, and being able to just enjoy the display a bit more.
Accept it as it is, rather than trying to control it.
Imagine that it looks more like it would in the wild.
Yeah. I like the concept of working with nature rather than trying to fight against it. Yeah. So I always thought about reef tanks, these high-end reef tanks.
Yeah.
Where if one little tiny thing goes wrong, you can potentially wipe out thousands of pounds worth of corals.
My favourite marine tank I had was just a soft coral, no skimmer. It was a like 200-litre tank.
Yeah.
Just really simple, and everything kind of thrived.
Yeah.
You know, a proper reef keeper would have not appreciated it. But
What is a proper reef keeper though?
I don't know, someone who measures things and puts things on timers and is worried about water chemistry.
Okay. Interesting.
I was just like, I'm putting in mushroom corals and hardy things, and we'll see what they do.
It's like the reef equivalent of Anubias and Crips.
Yeah. Right, and the easiest one to plant floating plants. I like to just break them up a little bit with my fingers when I put them in so that they start sitting upright from the get-go. Pull out any loose leaves. Do you like this plant? Yeah. As you said, it's cool when the fish are like moving through the root networks. And if you've got nervous fish or fish that are prone to jumping, this is really good at making them feel more secure, preventing that behaviour, although embers are highly unlikely to jump.
That's good news. And there's not much surface movement, so that's quite nice, because sometimes the floating plants get blown into the wrong corner, don't they? Yeah, that's great, thank you. I didn't plan to make a video today, but it's been quite nostalgic doing one with you.
We haven't done a tank setup for a while.
No. Can't remember when we did your 120, it was October, wasn't it, last year?
Last year, that's scary.
Last year, yeah.
Last year already.
Cool.
So we need to add our final component.
Yeah, yes we do. This is the final component. This is a light ground, one of the original ones. They're all fancy now with RGB and things, but this is
we're using the
old school
light ground foil paper. And normally what you would do is you would peel off the sticky part of this and then stick it onto the back of your tank.
Yeah.
But we want to be able to reuse it.
Yeah.
So we've just sellotaped it to the light ground.
Yeah. Okay, so we'll turn the light ground on now and you'll just notice a huge difference, hopefully. Okay.
What we've done is we've put the foil paper so that there's an orange to green gradient. And we want the green at the bottom because that's where our plants are, and going up to orange to simulate the slightly tannin stained waters of this habitat. We are actually going to add some black water into this tank.
Okay, so we've got our jug of tannin extract. This was actually the water that was formed after boiling all of the small pieces of wood. So we'll just pour that in now.
Really important for people to know, don't do this when you've got your fish in the tank.
Oh, look at all that solid stuff.
Nice. You do this when your fish are in the tank by adding all this low pH tannin stained water. You very rapidly change the pH of the water, and that can actually kill your fish and really stress them out to the point of death. So if you're going to do it this way, ideally before you've added fish, all this organic material that's going in, that looks even more authentic. A lot of the habitats I go to, all the plants are covered in exactly that kind of stuff. So it looks good.
Yeah.
And this will dissipate a little bit. The other thing I learned recently, I judged the Aquatic Gardeners Biotope competition, and there was a really cool Amazon biotope that someone had done. And he had this amazing tip, which was instead of boiling his leaves, his botanicals and seeds, which is what I've always done, he soaked them in RO water, reverse osmosis water. And once they were soaked that they sank, then he added them to the tank. And the reason he did this is because if you boil your botanicals, which is what you do to help them sink and to produce the tannin, and then add them to your tank, they've already had all the tannins, which is what you want, boiled out of them. And they won't release anymore once you add them to the tank. However, if you soak them in RO water, and then once they've soaked and sank, add them to your tank, they will slow release tannins over time as they would in nature into your display. That also makes them safer to add if you've already got fish in the tank. I thought that was a really, really good top tip. So I'm going to be doing something similar. If you don't have RO water, you could use rainwater, but do it that way rather than boiling them and then throwing them in the tank if you want them to keep releasing tannins over time.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense. When did you learn that from, sorry?
So this was when I judged the American Aquatic Gardeners competition.
Okay.
And Ivan Mikolji and I were the biotope judges.
Yeah.
And this guy who's in Brazil had done really cool Amazon displays.
Yeah.
And he explained that in his write-up.
That's really,
display. I thought it was really
clever,
good.
yeah.
The other thing I wanted to say is that this habitat, when George and I were talking about which biotope to do, I suggested this one because we actually did an Ember tetra biotope for the Aquatic Habitats book.
That was a 12-inch cube.
Yeah, so 30 centimeters by 30 centimeters cube. And that was with Helanthium bolivianum, Eleochorus montevidensis, and a little gang of Ember tetras.
Yeah.
And they were really happy in there.
I
They
remember
were really
everything.
thriving,
Yeah.
yeah. So I thought, let's upscale it, let's mix up the plants, and let's give them more room.
Yeah.
And I think this looks cool. And some people may look at the detritus here and think, and siphon out.
Yeah.
That's perfectly valid.
Yeah.
Others of you may wish to leave it. That's also fine.
It's biofilm, isn't it, basically?
Yeah. And
I bet shrimp would eat that.
shrimp would eat it, that will break down, provide nutrients for the plants. You are going to be putting liquid fertilizers in here, you said, so
yeah.
you're going to have that anyway. And yeah, I think
That looks great.
I really like the composition you've done as well.
Oh, thank you.
It
Yeah.
looks sort of natural but pleasing to the eye with
Yeah.
that triangle layout.
That was the concept with your book, really, wasn't it? Creating natural-looking aquascape, habitat-style aquariums, but we're using aquascaping techniques.
Something else I was just thinking, you know, outside right now, it's pouring with rain, we have a terrible storm, it's really windy, it's really dark, George is tripping over his plants. It's horrible weather outside, and then there's this really warm, almost like a fireplace kind of vibe.
It is really warm,
this
isn't it?
tank.
Yeah.
And when the fish are in here, Ember tetras, appropriately enough, they'll also bring a really nice warm vibe, very mellow, comforting kind of display. And so although it's natural style, it has a resonance that's very calming, and I think that's quite important
Yeah.
and appropriate given the weather conditions outside today. So
Yeah, I think that's something that's not really kind of considered with people's aquarium keeping and seasons. You can actually create a vibe with your aquarium to kind of complement the season.
yeah,
So in the summer, you could potentially go for like a fast flowing stream, really cool lighting.
light greens.
Yeah, light green or blue background, you know, fast flowing fish in a shallow aquarium to give you that kind of fresh, cool vibe. Or conversely, like this, when it's cold outside, you know, you want to like almost like you say, a fireplace kind of vibe going on. Oh, I'm really grateful for your help today, mate. Thank you so much.
Thank you. It's fun to be involved and to be creative with you again.
Good. Yeah, I really enjoyed it, mate, and it's a good start to the new year.
Very good. And next week, hopefully, we should be getting the fish.
Yes.
So we'll be able to do an
So we'll
update
do
on
part
this
2
fairly
of that,
soon.
and then
Yeah.
I'll do that. We'll do that in 4K and with microphones and the rest of it because it's been. We weren't planning a video today. You just wanted to come and
We had lunch.
we had some lunch
yeah.
and went to see Dave, but took the opportunity to make what I think is a beautiful biotope. Is it biotope style? I don't know what to call it these days.
I call it natural style,
Yeah.
which is a combination of biotopes, community aquariums, and aquascapes.
The fourth way. Remember that
The fourth-
video?
yeah.
Still gets a lot of comments on that video.
Use aquascaping composition.
Yeah.
Use biotope elements like your botanicals, your tannins, and your choice of plants. Community aquarium in that you're creating it for fairly easy species that most people could get hold of, that you might keep in a community tank anyway, but now you've tried something different for them.
Yeah.
Hence,
I'm going to experiment with the filter outlet to keep hopefully distribute the
Other
plants
plants.
a bit better. But they all tend to get sucked
Clumped
into
in
the
one
corner,
place.
don't they?
that's okay too. I mean,
Yeah. Could actually just point the lily pipe straight at the wood, so it's almost stagnant.
blown around. Well,
Yeah.
the photo I've seen of Ember tetra habitat from the Araguaia Basin was a really shallow, almost a sandbar, with here and there clumps of Helanthium bolivianum, and quite clear, but slightly tannin water, and so it would be very low current,
Yeah.
and so that would be appropriate.
Cool, man. You carry on chatting to the camera about something. I'm going to feed the dogs. You can tell everyone what a great friend I am if you want, or
I could.
you could, but you'd be lying.
No, I've had a lot of people asking me about the book, the Aquatic Habitats Aquariums Inspired by Nature book, which we've been working on, and basically it's in the development stage. The editors are working flat out to go through it. It's a huge manuscript, and like I said earlier, the planned release is now August 2024. So I really appreciate everyone who's already put their faith in me by pre-ordering it. It's quite a daunting project. Sometimes you forget the scale of it, and you forget that, you know, it's more than just yourself is working on it. There's all sorts of people involved in the project. No, including George, including the editors, all the people who've contributed. You know, so many people have come together to make this book happen. And it's sometimes frustrating that it's not out yet already, but it will be better for the time taken to make sure it's really, really good.
All good things come to those who wait.
Exactly. So, yeah. So thank you for your support, and thanks to George today for letting us get creative.
Yeah, my pleasure, mate.
And really good lunch as well.
Egg and bacon sandwiches.
Proper, especially in the stormy weather, that kind of lunch. And yeah, I think we did a good job. So
you did do a good job. Thanks,
Thank
mate.
you.
Good to see you again.
And you. Take care.
Take care, everyone. Cheerio. Don't forget to subscribe to Tai. Follow him on Instagram if you're into that social media devil.
Or YouTube.
YouTube's better.
Yeah.
Subscribe to Tai on YouTube and watch all of his videos. He's got some amazing habitat videos from the Amazon, from Hunter Now and all over.
Yeah.
That's it.
Cool.
Awkward.
Yeah.
Awkward silence.
I always want those, you know when there's like a national broadcast emergency